All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the Eastside Red Raider Report live with Coach Thompson. I'm Monty Moss here, and I have two special guests, Mr. Anthony Tavares and Mr. Brian Garvin, both coaches of the boys basketball team. So give it up for our guests today, Coach Garvin, Coach Tavares. Welcome. So before we dig in, these two have been together for 20 years, going on 21. 19 going on 20. I'm sorry. They're a married couple. They love each other. So we're just going to dig right into these questions here as coaches. Number one, Coach Garves, is for you, and you both will share duties. What's your philosophy on discipline as a basketball coach?
Well, my philosophy for discipline is to basically, it's part of everyday life. With discipline in your livelihood, it carries over to the basketball court. So it starts there first. From birth, you learn how to be disciplined to doing certain things in life, and then if you carry that over from the basketball court, it's pretty much the same. So I pretty much put both aspects of life and basketball together, and that's how we came up with the discipline policy in order for them to be better basketball players.
Is that a hard transition to, like, for kids that are not disciplined? Is it hard to discipline those?
It's difficult for some kids or some student athletes to become self-disciplined. It takes practice, some a year, some 2 years, especially when we first started with Randy Foye. He was an undisciplined young man, but over the past year, and he knew that he needed to self-discipline himself, he became an all-star, an all-American, and then eventually a pro.
Coach T, your thoughts on discipline?
A lot of people don't know, but I've also coached soccer, and I coached the little guys for Ironbound Soccer, and I had the fortunate experience of coaching one of the soccer teams to a state championship, and I had to say a little speech when they were giving us the trophy, and I said the big difference is all the kids that I coach in soccer are coming from homes when they have their mother and their father there supporting them, and the big difference with Coach Garvin and I is a lot of the times we're their mother and father. So a lot of single-family homes, their grandmother's raising them, so discipline is essential. We try to get them where some kids don't have the discipline at home. We try to get them early and get to them and say, listen, in order for you to be successful in school and in basketball, you need to have that discipline. So sometimes we are really, really hard on our kids, but I think they need it. And then once they leave us, they appreciate that the discipline that we instill in them that probably they're not getting at home because they don't have they don't live with mom and dad or for whatever the situation is, but they appreciate that without discipline there's nothing else. The basketball stuff is easy.
That's very interesting. So just a quick side note, who was the hardest player in your career here at Eastside that you had discipline? I'll start with you, Coach T.
Wow. Hardest player. There was a few. I don't want to name any names, but we've had the unfortunate. We've had a few players pass away to the streets. We've had a few players incarcerated. So for every Randy Foye and Hassan Whiteside, there are some that make the news for the wrong reasons. So that weren't able to buy in or bought in while they were here, but the minute they left and graduated to the streets, they weren't able to take what they learned here and applied it. So we've had some challenging students. We've been blessed, and I think he agrees, over the last 8 to 10 years, we've had less and less challenging students, but nonetheless, we've had some challenging student athletes here.
I will agree. I'm not going to elaborate, any further. For every 10 kids we save, we probably have one that would just have different direction in life. So, for the kids that student athletes that have gone on to college, that's our reward. And the ones that decide to do other things, then we're still here. That's why we call this the Eastside family.
So obviously, during the years, you guys have grown tremendously as men and as coaches. You guys got better year in and year out. But obviously there's great coaches around the world, such as Mike Krzyzewski's and the Roy Williams and the John Wootens. Who would be you two coaching role models that you guys look up to, may steal some plays or steal some how they do things at their practices or in games?
Well, a lot of things that when I first met Coach T, we didn't know one another, and 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 I told him certain things that I wanted to do, and he looked at me like I was crazy, and he didn't understand it. But a lot of philosophies, actually everything that I do in my coaching career over the past 26 years, I'm losing count, is from John Chaney. Chaney is one of those guys that is a extreme motivator, and I've saw him basically take young men that were, not top 100, not in the newspaper, not this, not Nike All-American, McDonald's All-Americans, and I've seen him turn them into pro athletes. So the philosophy of things that he has done over the decades and decades of coaching, I gravitated from that. I used to watch him practice at 5 o'clock in the morning because my workouts were at 5 o'clock in the morning as a football player. I played basketball and football in high school, but never in college. I played football in college. But my goal set was to coach eventually, and I used to sit here and watch him every single day for years, and watch him practice over and over with the great athletes that he had, like Eddie Jones and Aaron McKee. And and I used to practice with those guys during the summer. So a lot of things that he has done as a coach, I kind of rolled it over into my philosophy of coaching football and basketball.
Coach C?
I'm gonna have to say one of the legends in New Jersey basketball. Bob Hurley. Bob Hurley has 1,200 wins. A couple of years ago, they shut down St. Anthony's High School, but when I first started, I was just amazed on year in and year out how he was able to win TOCs and state championships with inner city kids, the majority of inner city kids. So I think a lot of the stuff, even practice and everything, just, I would say Bob Hurley. And then on the college level, I love watching Tom Izzo at Michigan State and how he conducts practices and how his teams play. I love to watch Michigan State play.
So what's like, obviously in the summertime, you both know going into the next year what you're looking at for as a roster, but then you have kids coming in and then you host tryouts. What's the most hardest part of having a tryout session? Like after the tryout's over, then the decision comes between, okay, who do I keep and who do I cut? Like what's the most hardest about that?
I think one of the advantages of being the vice principal in charge of guidance is I'm able to print out report cards and look at GPAs immediately. So I don't walk into the gym without a stack of report cards. Mm-hmm. So right away, a lot of kids don't know, but they come and try out, and they're cut even before they get onto the court. So we take a look at their report cards, and then another advantage, and I'll let Coach Garv talk about this, but he's one of the deans of discipline here. So if there's a kid trying out that he or Coach Williams, who's on a discipline team, or Mr. Rodriguez has to deal with constantly, the odds are they're not going to make the basketball team. So we talk about discipline at the beginning. If you have good grades and you don't get in trouble in school, you have a shot. Then we look at basketball ability. So if there's kids in there that have marginal basketball or pretty deep, we've cut kids that have been pretty good, but just there's no way they're going to deal with both of us.
I'm going to make this short and quick. My philosophy is I don't deal with you twice. And if I have to deal with you during the day and I have to deal with you after school, that's 2 times too many. I only deal with you once. So I don't want to deal with you after school, and that's it. So that's how I take it. I let these other guys make their decision. The discipline piece is just what it is. If I see you too many times in my office, that's a wrap.
Coach T, I'll keep you on. Describe your typical pregame, halftime, and postgame locker room routine, and what's the philosophy behind it?
As I get older, my pregame consists of doing homework. So I try to go get my kids into my office, get their homework done, get everything done so I can get to the gym by like 3:30. And then pregame, Coach Williams, Coach Thompson do a great job of getting the kids ready to play. We usually take them into the locker room, and I tell the kids I do my talking the day before. I do my talking in practice, film, to get prepared for the game. Coach Garv will go in there, rile them up a little bit, and then as we get to halftime, we just look at each other. All the coaches kind of huddle outside the locker room and say, all right, what's going on? What can we do differently? What have we done well? What can we change? Who has it today? Because sometimes that's a big part of coaching. Who has it on that particular day? Who's doing a little bit better? And then we got to just talk and just go in second half. Post-game, we try to keep it as positive as possible, but also – we don't like to make it seem like everything is fine. There's always room for improvement. So I
Agree.
think post-game we kind of talk to them and say, this is what we have to work on tomorrow. This is the bigger picture. We have a game Saturday. We have a game Tuesday. This is how many games we have left until the state cutoff. This is why this is important. So we try to tell them what to expect over the course of the next day and the next couple of weeks. So that's basically it in a nutshell. Nothing crazy.
But before you go, tell the listeners that halftime rally up by Reverend Tavares against Westside in the Christmas tournament final. Just tell the listeners about that, because I was there. I felt the spirit. You waited and waited. You had the players all in the huddle in the locker room. Everyone's so riled up, and then you just come with one of the greatest halftime pregame speeches, pump-up speeches I've ever heard in my life. Like, I felt the energy.
Coach Garver, remember this. I don't remember what you're talking about.
Very well, very well.
I have no idea. Like I said, you're in the moment. And then once that is over, I tell people I don't get too happy after a win. I don't get too sad after a loss, because there's always tomorrow. And as long as there's tomorrow, I thank God for it. So I don't even remember. I know that was a big game. We had lost to them. We wanted to win as a staff to prove to them that for right now that we were the best team in Newark.
Which we are.
It worked out well. To be honest, what I said, I have no idea.
All right. I'm not going to even elaborate on that.
For me to elaborate on it, I don't remember it either. At the end of the day, the only thing that I remember is DeAndre Spate. He was one of those kids that I can tell you every moment that I yelled at him, screamed at him, and threw a chair at him, and chased him outside of the school. Other than that, I can't remember half the things that I do at halftime. If I'm excited, overly excited, I can't remember. One time I can remember, though, is being at Shabazz inside the classroom, and Corey Chandler was acting like a crazy man, and I threw my keys at him, and I threw a desk at him, and I threw everything I had. And it didn't hit him. And I ripped my shirt off. And I came in and I walked out of the classroom, and the custodian was in the hallway. He was like, "Coach, relax. It's just a game." And I told him, "No, it's not an effing game. They got to learn how to play the game the right way." And we almost came back and won that game. We were down, I think, about 24 points. And we lost by 2. So it was a good day, good feeling. I'm glad I didn't have any heart issues, because I really lost it. But that's okay.
Coach C, how do you live with that? How do you live with that? How do you control that when you're normal and he just ballistically goes off? Like, how do you live with that?
It all depends on the day. Some days you got to ask him the same question. I'll lose it every once in a while. It just becomes part of the routine, man. Whenever the kids need something like that, one of us steps up to the plate, rises our blood pressure a little bit, and then we just go from there.
So just to give the listeners some feedback, obviously, like you said before, your guys' goals at the end of the day is to discipline these kids that come in through our program, make sure they go to college. Just give some of the listeners, like the players we have now in college.
We currently have 10 players in college. Darnell Brody playing at the Prudential Center at the Rock, 6'9" center. He just went in the other day. I believe it was against Xavier. Butler, and did a tremendous job. First opportunity to play. I think he played 16 minutes.
Yep,
so
that's true.
They just had a nice big article on him. He did a great job. So Darnell's a freshman at Seton Hall. We have 2 students at Stony Brook and 2 students at NJIT. So we have 5 Division I players right now playing Division I-A, fully qualified through the NCAA. So that's a testament to not only the staff but the teachers in this building that they had to get a GPA and a SAT score to qualify. We also have 3 Division II players right now, so that's 8. We have Ahmed Harrison over at Caldwell College, Shamir Johnson at East Stroudsburg, Jahad Jenkins at Felician. The Stony Brook kids are Elijah Oliani, Hassan Cisse. The NJIT kids are Abdul Lewis and Taj Price. That's 8. And then Akbar Hoffman is at Montclair State, tearing it up. First team All-State 2014.
Yes.
Averaging, I think, a little close to 20 points a game. He's
Roughly.
at Montclair State, which is Division III, so that's 9. And then the gentleman that Coach Garver mentioned a little while ago, DeAndre, he's at a JUCO, I believe, in Missouri, if I'm not mistaken. So we have 10 kids playing basketball, and it's probably one of the best things of my day to kind of click on them and see did they win the day before, how they're doing, and then sending them text messages. So we still keep in touch with them almost daily. Today's Elijah's birthday.
That's
I
true.
texted him a little while ago, happy
Same,
birthday.
same.
So that's kind of what we do here at Eastside.
All right, so just moving on to a different topic. Obviously, we know that we all go through tough times in life. You went through a lot of tough times. You went through a lot of tough times. Coach Thompson, the rest of the guys here. And we know we're a family, and we're always there for each other no matter what. But when someone is fighting cancer, it's kind of, distressing to say. But how is – obviously, Pancho used to play for you guys. He was on a great basketball team coached by you both. Just talk about – I don't even know how to put it into words because I just hate when the word cancer comes up.
The young man's been through a lot. He graduated in 2002, played on that Randy Foy team. Last year we made some T-shirts, sort of like a little fundraiser for him. He's had multiple surgeries and the cancer. Seems to be turning the corner right now, doing well, looks good, put some weight on. I've made it my point to go pick him up both days this week so he can sit right behind the bench so he can get out of the house and kind of get a little normalcy. So we love the kid. He's a great, great kid. Angel Oquendo, he's got a little piece of Coach Garv in my heart. So
Yes, that's true.
Hopefully he can get past this, and I think we're over the hurdle, and now we just need to get to the finish line where he can get back to a normal life. Every time you have stage 4 cancer and you can beat it, he's a miracle. He's a walking miracle, and he's an inspiration. Like I said, this whole basketball stuff means nothing unless we have our health.
Agree.
And he's an inspiration to us all, myself. So we love the kid to death, and hopefully he can come watch games for the next 50 years. I'll pass it to Coach Garv.
Coach Garv.
Well, this is tough for me. Over the past 2 months, I lost about 13 people to very different illnesses and accidents, and I just recently lost my aunt to an ailment. So, to have Pocho going through what he was going through, he basically beat everybody that have passed over the past 2 months for myself. This young man is like a son to me. We talk every day. He even called me from the hospital on instant messaging, and while he just finished surgery, looked at me and said, "Coach, I don't want to die. I want to come to the games." I said, "Son," I told him, I can curse on here, right?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
I basically told him, I said, "Son, shut the fuck up. I see you at the games. Just get healthy. You'll be all right." And he's at the games. He's one of the toughest
SOBs.
young men that I've ever seen. I didn't think he was that tough, but he is one tough young man. And I don't think that anybody in this room could survive what he has gone through. He
Not at all.
basically had his entire intestines removed, and it's difficult. Sometimes I sit here and I hate speaking to him because it brings me in tears, but it's a good kid. Love him to death.
So before we wrap this up, we're going to go into a little speed round with you two. So I'll start with you, Coach Garv. Best memory as a coach here at Eastside.
I have so many, man.
That comes to mind. Don't have to be this typical you're going to dig through years to find one. Just one that comes to your mind.
Well, I'm going to take it back to when we won our first state championship with Randy Foy, and we beat Shawnee right there at the end. And this is funny. I knew what this is all about. And, I was on the court and, with my hands up and doing all these type of things. And Coach T was like, he didn't know what the hell just happened. So he was like, that was his first time doing it. And I was like, yeah, because I already knew. And, that was a great moment. And we had plenty of them, man. We had a lot of them. You don't mind me mentioning another one?
Go for it.
Was with Jamar Gilbert. Hit the game-winning shot after he lost his father. That was extremely emotional because he lost his father a week before, and he came in and hit the game-winning shot when we played at Jimmy Solomon's. Was it the day before? The day before.
Day before.
It was the day before. Yeah.
Wanted to play. Was
Wanted to play.
number 1 against number 2. We were number 2.
Yeah.
And, East Side versus East Side, number 1 versus number 2. And then we get down to tie game at the end, drew up a play, and somehow he got the ball in his hands. He dribbled down court and hit a 3-point shot and buried it.
The rest is history.
We won by 3, and he was just like in tears. It was just a great moment.
Your best memory.
That
comes to mind.
I got so many. Doing this and the state championship right after that, not knowing that, you will grow up watching college basketball. The first day we went to Madison Square Garden and saw Randy Foye play against Marquette and Dwayne Wade. And I remember being at the Garden was like, holy shit, we're at the Garden.
Yeah.
And this is big-time college basketball on ESPN. Mm-hmm. And one of the kids that we coached yelled at, screamed at, and Coach Garv threw chairs at is playing on Madison Square Garden.
The greatest arena in the world.
Then driving down to Villanova and having for his graduation sticks out of my mind. Obviously, the state championships, Jamar's game. There's just so many. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to fly down to Miami with my family, and after a Miami Heat game, Hassan Whiteside invited me back to his house, and he had a chef there, and he cooked dinner for my family, and my youngest son ended up falling asleep on the couch because it was like 11:30. Yeah. And when Haas and my oldest played some video games, 2K.
Yeah.
So stuff like that is what it's all about. But I mentioned before going to the Cathedral. 2 of our former basketball players became officers, and taking that picture outside with Officer Flood and Officer Jamal Reed, mm-hmm. that was a moment that stuck out. Like, wow. We helped these 2 guys become officers.
Worst memory that comes to mind.
Worst memory? Listen, you're doing this for as long as we do. I don't. Hearing about one of our players getting shot and killed. Stuff like that is what I remember. Other than that, there isn't too many things where I can say it's a bad memory.
Is there a game that you sort of like regret in a way or scratch your head on down the line?
Last year a little bit. We finally got over the hump and beat Linden. We had lost to them at their place 2 years in a row. We came here and played a phenomenal game, and we beat them here in front of a great crowd. Then we went on the state semi and beat Hackensack, and then we got to the final against Shawnee, and we were favored, and we had been down to the state tournament 3 years, and every year we've been to Rutgers, we won. So last year was the first time we got to Rutgers, and that's the goal every year. We got to Rutgers, and then to lose by 1, I think that was a heartbreaking game. But you know what? All those kids are in college, so that's just heartbreaking for a minute. And then after that, you start going back and saying, all right, Jihad, did you take your SATs? What do we got to do to Shamir? Let's call East Stroudsburg. Hassan just came off a major surgery. Let's get him situated at Stony Brook. So you can't get too happy after a win. You can't get too down after a loss because there's always tomorrow. And thank God there's tomorrow.
All right, last question before we wrap up for the both of you two. How do you feel right now? Obviously 8-1, number 6 in the state of New Jersey, just beat a good Seton Hall prep team yesterday. How do you feel about your current team, and what are your expectations of how far we can go this season?
Oof. Okay, so we didn't play the greatest in June. We play in June, we play in September. We didn't play great. We added one senior transfer who's having a tough time adjusting a little bit to some of the stuff we're doing, but doing a great job. I think so far I've been pleasantly surprised with our performance this year. We're probably going to be ranked number 5 in the state of New Jersey on Tuesday.
Give it up, number 5, sooner or later.
So considering that, the Catholic powers, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and year in and year out, we can be knocking on the door, close to them. I think it's just a testament to the amount of time that the kids put in the weight room with Coach Thompson, Coach Garvin. So I've been pleasantly surprised so far this year. Expectations going forward, we're just going to keep working and try to get a little better and do what we got to do. I will say that it's a lot easier for us as coaches if you have a 4-year starter like Nas Amos at the point. That kid I want to say he's one of my favorite players of all time, and he's being under-recruited right now. Just a great, great kid, and what a competitor. What a competitor. If I had to start a team with all the players on the state of New Jersey, there's a lot of big-time players going to Florida, Villanova. I'm going to take the general, Nas Amos.
Heart of a Lion, Mr. Nas.
Whatever it needs to be done, be it a three, a steal, a rebound. Sometimes you'll see him rebounding over kids that are 3 times his size.
That is true.
So
he finds a way.
He finds a way. So I appreciate him, and he's having a good senior year. We got to get him in the right situation next year. That's what I'm more concerned about, besides the rest of the year.
Coach Garv, your thoughts on this year?
Well, I didn't think that we would be as good as we are right now. My expectations were, I think we're going to struggle because the lack of experience that we have. But as each and every day that we practice, we're getting better. We have some still room to grow, but I think that eventually we'll get there, and hopefully we can go back where we were last year in the same position.
So give it up for our guest today, Coach Tavares, Coach Garvin. Great crowd. Shout out to the crowd. Get home safe.